Alright, so I'm gonna do another live stream. Whoops. Feedback. Alright, let's try that again. I am going to do another live stream, and I'm gonna focus on answering a few questions I've gotten in the past few weeks after starting to do this, starting editing on live stream and uploading them to YouTube. This time I'm going to try to focus on composures, like framing, things I look for while I'm shooting specifically, and I'll try and tie that into how that influences the edit. And then we'll go through an edit or 2 or 3. I don't know how long this set's gonna take. I'm not gonna do them all in this sit down, but I'll try and get through as many as I can. So I'm gonna just take us through a few of these photos. I shot this. My friend Joey bought a Cayman and put a GT3 lid on it. He got some rotiforms. It looks very nice. Way better than a stock Cayman. Nothing against stock Caymans. Stock Caymans look sweet. He just made it his and put his own spin on it, and it looks really good. Turned out really well. He's actually probably not done. He's going to put some GT3 bumpers on it, most likely. But with supply chain issues, who knows how long that's going to take. Anyway, so let's go shot by shot here for a little bit. I'm going to explain what I like and what I don't like, what I was thinking while I was lining up shots, etc. So first things first, this was the first shot. I shot this around an not abandoned, but an out of use. Well, used for other things now. An airstrip. Used to be a military base. Military still uses parts of the area, but the air base is not used for aircraft anymore. Anyway, so when I'm looking for a frame to shoot, or a composure, or whatever you want to call it, each individual shot, I love framing with natural environment stuff, with like this is a pile of wood. I don't typically think too much about what's in the background, but in this instance, like you had this tree, this baby tree that's sticking up here, a bush or whatever it is. You've got obviously this shipping container here, and then you've got a lot of empty sky over here. If there was a huge light pole sticking up here, I probably wouldn't have put the car here. Originally, he was parked right here, and I wanted most of the car to be within the frame of this shipping container. I wanted a lot of this negative space over here taken up by this wood pile. One thing I didn't like was all this grass sticking up. Most of this is abandoned, out of use type stuff, so it's not well manicured. Obviously they have mowed recently over here on the other side of the road, but so when I was lining the shot up, I was also talking a lot to the owner because I hadn't seen him in a really long time, and we were talking about the car and plans for the car. Anyways, so I wasn't totally paying too much attention to what I was doing, more on the conversation I was having. So when I took these images, I've talked about it before, I always shoot 5 bracketed when I'm shooting natural light of each CPL turn. And in this case, I only did 2 CPL turns. And when I zoomed in, I noticed, hey, I've got a ton of grass, dead grass, sticking up into the body and into the tires and a little bit on the wheels. And I didn't want to edit that out. I don't want to have to deal with that. So I shot again. I just raised the camera a little. I don't like this composure as much because of this bag. was there, but there's not as much grass that you can see sticking in. So I think I'm gonna go with this Composure. I don't love this Composure either way. Usually I like the sun more directly behind the car. It's more dynamic. But anyways, that was my thought process with this. I really like this contrasty. You can see it, the difference when I turn the CPL here. It's much more washed out, and it takes away your eye from the car itself. But I like the foreground in this shot more than the background of this shot. So it's just all about CPL turns and what you like, where you like the highlights. But again, the focus is mainly on the car. I care a lot about the environment around the car. Some people don't. Anyways, so we'll go to the next shot here. I wasn't really happy with this location, this spot. I don't like how the main foreground element is just like weeds and a bush. I don't like how this tree is sticking out of the top of the car. I'll still probably end up editing this and sending it to him, but it wouldn't be something I would share on social medias. I don't know. We'll see after I'm done editing it how it'll look. So again, we were next to a parking lot that was being used to sandblast these beams. I have no idea why this was happening in this parking lot, but anyways, you see down here, this is all sandblasting material, and there were bags of it. You can actually see so here's an empty bag of it. Here's one of the sandblasting compressors. Anyways, it was pretty cluttered. I had to move some trash here, and I'd have to edit this out. I don't love this Composure either because I'm shooting with the sun mainly to my back. I like the framing of it. The foreground elements is cool and stuff. But I'm not a huge fan of the way the light's falling so harshly here on the front. But again, might look cool after an edit. I will decide that later. I don't know. The body lines on a 911 are just so good and smooth and clean. It doesn't really matter what light you throw at it. It's gonna look like Porsches are probably my favorite car, so it's hard for me to talk bad about this car. So here I wanted to use the reflection of the puddle more, but I couldn't. I moved the camera around a lot and I couldn't frame it to where the reflection really mattered. So I ended up giving up on that and just framing the car so that nothing stuck out of the roofline. I think these weeds and bushes and stuff are okay because it kind of gives depth a little bit. Again, we didn't have a ton of time. We were running out of sunlight, and we were going to be moving locations here in a second. And so I didn't think too much about framing it here. I thought this was cool the way the light was showing, pretty harshly off this body line, off the fender there. So I had to use my hand to block out the reflection on the lens itself, shot those brackets. This one was a good comp in my opinion. I like how it's just clean behind it. I might try and get rid of this. It would probably be cleaner if I did. That's going to be tough to make look natural though, but we'll see. Again, I really like how the light just hits the wheels here. They're very flush with the fenders. This will probably be my favorite image, is my guess, of the whole set. I don't know, we'll end up seeing. Moved down the road a little bit to where they had these trailers stored. Again, abandoned, or here's the tower they used to use for the airport, not in use anymore. Not a super big fan of this comp because my eyes are automatically drawn to where the sun is shining. But I didn't have a ton of room to work with here, and I'm standing in the middle of the road. You can't see it, but here's the middle line of the road. Luckily it wasn't very busy, so I only had to move for like 3 cars the whole time I was shooting this and the next comp. But what I wanted to show here was how you can use the car to block things that are undesirable. So if I show you the next composure, I kind of like this composure more, except there's a big old dumpster just sitting there. Not a super interesting composure either way. Probably won't use this. I might edit it real quickly just to see if I like it enough, but I don't want to have to somehow edit this dumpster out. I don't know what I would do to make it look natural. There's not really enough here to clone all the way across. You can obviously see a building sticking out here, which you can see. You can't even see it. Okay, you can barely see it here, but anyways, there's a building and trees. I don't know how to make this look natural if I were to clone it all out, but I wanted to show you how just moving a little bit to the left or the right can hide things behind the car that you don't want in the shot. Moved across the street again. Sun was setting lower than I like to shoot, mainly because it was blocked by these trees here. Tried to frame it between these poles. Don't know if it really works out well. I hate that the tree grows straight out of the top of the car. Again, I was talking a lot. Joey, the owner of the car, he's a big talker, and when I get around big talkers, especially car guys, we just talk about cars, and I'm not paying a ton of attention. If this were a paid company, shoot for some wheel company or something like that, I'm going to be paying a lot more attention. I'm probably going to have a plan. I did not have a plan going into this. So you got to watch for things like this. You never really want a tree growing straight out of the top. It literally looks like it has a hat or an afro or a wig or something on. Now that I see this, it kind of ruins the shot for me. Still probably going to edit it, see if I can make it stand out, the car stand out in the background not. I could sky swap this. What I could do is I could easily pin tool along the top of this building, and then a top of the roof itself, and then the top of this building, and all the way around here. Leave this and maybe this, and I could swap in a sky from, say, one of these images back here, something clean, where the sun's on the right side like it is here. Anyways, you've got options. You don't have to. I'm not a huge proponent of sky swaps, but as long as the sky swap is very natural, and it doesn't take away from the naturalness, that's not a word, of the image itself. Let's see here. I think the car is too much on the left side of the image. I should have had him move to here. I'm not sure why I didn't. Probably wasn't paying enough attention. It's funny, I'm telling you all of the reasons why I hate these photos, when in reality, once I'm done with them, he's probably going to be pretty happy with them. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, I hate pretty much every photo I've ever taken, but you should always be your own worst critic, to an extent. you shouldn't be self-deprecating, but you should always be striving to produce better imagery and art. And you should never fall into a rut where you're just super happy with what you're doing in your style and not look for ways to be better. I really like the harshish shadow here. Unfortunately, there was a tree or something above here, and so it's a little bit softer here, and I don't love that, but oh, actually, no, that's coming through the window, so it's fine. Let's see, what else did we do? Again, probably should have had him move to where the front of the car is here, but I was worried about the light pole. And as I'm setting up, the sun dipped low enough so that it was like here. When it was a little bit higher, it was really shining through, and you got this cool like starburst. But anyways, again, I liked how the sun was hitting the rear fender. Just went to the other side. I'm not sure this photo really works well. It'll probably end up being decent when I try and separate the car from the background. Again, I like shooting when the sun is behind the car, where here it's not so much, so the light isn't the way I love it. That's hard to explain, but probably won't use these images here. I was just trying things out. I don't usually shoot portrait photos of cars. It's pretty rare, but I'll probably edit this. This would probably be cool for, you know, a phone background or something like that. Just tried to show the car's hips. Usually what I'll do at the end of, towards the end of a shoot where the sun's getting really low, I'll bust out the 50mm 1.4 lens, and I will walk around the car in a unique area, and I will shoot more artistic single composure shot, or single comp shots, so I won't do the 5 bracketed. I'll still have a CPL on there, and I'll kind of just shoot some detail shots, turn the CPL, see what I like, see what works, see what doesn't. I'll shoot things between, like, so this image was f1.4, probably should have shot it at like a 2.2 so that things were in focus. I missed the focus here. Like this image to an extent, but again, I missed the focus. Not even sure what the image is focused on. It actually looks soft in general, so missed the focus completely. These usually aren't like final image type shots. They're more filler, they're more artistic-y, throw a preset on. Actually looks really good in black and white. I'm not a big black and white fan, but the car works well. Maybe because it's black and white. Let's see. I really like the wing on this thing. Always try and get a artsy logo shot. Love Porsche headlights. These are actually something he put on because the other one's car was from Florida, really screwed up the finish, so he replaced them. He was telling me about this little detail he put on there. Again, this shot works better than this one because of the reflection. So CPL turn here to get rid of most of the reflection on the window, turn the CPL again to bring back the reflection. Again, these aren't breathtaking images, they're just filler, but this, I just want to point out things that make this image better than the alternative here. And it's just this reflection detail in the window. Again, same thing here. Don't love this one as much. Again, strictly personal preference. Maybe you like darker windows. Maybe you don't. I usually like, in these artsy shots, I like defined highlights, sharp lines, contrasty lines between shadows and highlights. And you don't get that with certain CPL turns. So I might, even though I'm hand holding this here, I might try and line these up in post and take this side of this car and this side of the car and put them into one composure. These kind of images do relatively well on Instagram, but mainly for people who just like that Instagram look and feel, which is extremely viable. I'm not trying to talk down on that. It's just not so much my style. Do I like this image? I do, to an extent. I think the background's a little busy, but it's artsy. It's just filler. It looks decent. You can really make it warm here and contrasty. Crush the highlights. Not huge on crushing the highlights, but I'm also not huge on blown out skies. Just playing around with it for a little bit. You could also throw a preset on it. Just to kind of see what you can, you can get some like Cali sunset vibes. Again, these are just images all about the vibes. You're not going to be selling a car this way. You're just going to portray emotions. You know, it looks very warm. It actually wasn't that warm. It was like 50 degrees, one of the colder days of the year so far. But, or post-summer, I guess you should say. Because February was really cold. Anyways, again, just completely missed the focus here, and then it's back, but you gotta watch. So if you look here, shot this image a little dark, upped the exposure, missed the focus. I like this exposure better, but sun flare was on a body line, so then I moved again to where the sun flare was not on the body itself. Again, average image. You could really play around with it though. There's a lot of data to work with, so you could just be super artsy with it. Anyways, let's see here. Here's a comparison again. I wasn't paying attention to where the CPL was, because when you turn the camera from landscape to portrait, the CPL turns with the lens. So it crushed or took out all the highlights there, the reflections. So I had to turn it again. Nothing you can really do about the sun flare. Again, these aren't perfect images by any means. Sun was getting really low here. Not much you can do with this light, in my opinion. It's not a bad idea to let the sun completely dip below and then start shooting in blue hour. I don't do that very often, usually because by this time the owners are ready to leave. But some of my favorite images were, let me pull them up real fast. I shot blue hour, even into purple hour, which is after blue hour, of this Mercedes AMG CLS 63S. And I shot well after the sun had set. It was showing its last highlights on the clouds. This is actually a really dark time, but modern technology, you can really bring back light. You can see it's relatively noisy. Anyways, I love that image. I don't love that I'm shooting on gravel, but there was not much I could do about it. Actually, that might not be gravel. I can't remember. It's a little too green and not contrasty enough, but anyways, you get what I'm saying. You can shoot into the nighttime before having to call it quits. Move to the other side, try to get this goldenish highlight on the side of the car. It's good just to walk around the car, see where the light's falling, shoot the roadies, miss the focus a lot. But when you're shooting at so that was at 1.6, that's gonna happen. I'm not a huge fan of these kind of shots, kind of boring, especially at f-stop. Pretty average images. But I'm a victim of the locations I choose. If I don't have and love the location I'm in, then sometimes the imagery is relatively poor. So I'm gonna go ahead and start editing these. Just add the simple basic things I always add. I should have a preset for this by now, but I don't. Sometimes I change it, sometimes I don't. Man, I just like this image more because it blocks that stupid bag. But I don't want to have to deal with all of this. I'm just gonna go with this one. See if I can't save it. Should know pretty quick whether I like it or not. Probably just gonna go with it anyways, for the sake of the recording. Let's start drawing paths. Oops. Doesn't matter where you start or what direction you go. Whatever makes you comfortable. Again, I've said it before, you can outsource this work. Apparently there was a recent Photoshop and Lightroom update that really increased like how efficient the AI masking is. I have not tried it. I don't trust it. I don't think there's any way it can do a super accurate job. When the light's as dynamic as it is, when you've got like this fence behind, maybe the fence makes it easier on the AI. I'm not sure. There's something relaxing about pathing things out. To me, there are other times where I'm just super excited for how images turned out and I just want to start editing, and I don't like doing this, but this isn't going to be one of those shoots for me. People who are really good at this probably laugh at how slow I am, but people who never do this probably think this is super fast when it's not. I'm also not being super accurate here, but it's alright. Sometimes parts of the car blend in with the background, so you gotta just zoom in and make sure you're masking the right stuff. And you could add like, or open up one of the different exposures if it helps. But here's where it gets tricky. What do you include and what do you not include in the mask? And me, I'm just gonna do the outline of what I know to be the car itself. This is why I don't love this comp, because all the grass is in the way. But what can you do? I like this one more than the other one because of the trash and stuff. We'll see if I can save it. Don't ever forget about the space between the spoiler and the car. Just realized that backwards. It's alright. Command Shift I inverts it. It's alright. Not a big deal. Whoops. So it's not as important with this because there's not a sun. The sun's not right behind it, and I'm not using my hand to block reflection. So each of these comps can be, each of these image layers could be used for either the car or the background. But it's still easier from a workflow standpoint to separate what exposure you want for the car and which one you want for the background. So I talked about it once before, but I'm usually very safe when it comes to editing, when choosing which layers to use and which not to use. So usually I do a more blown out sky as long as I'm getting detail in the shadows of the car, the shadows of the foreground. But when I was shooting this car, I just kept thinking, you know, maybe I make this the edits here more moody. But you got to be careful because you could make it too dark and it's not very pleasing. Another thing I've done in the past is come in here and you can photo merge to HDR. Sometimes I'll do this for the background layer. You could do this in Photoshop too, but I always find it easier to do in Lightroom and then bring that image into Photoshop. So here's all the data together. We could drop the blacks, lower the shadows here, really crush the highlights. Overall image is too bright. You need to make sure it's more neutral though, because you don't want your final post-processing done on a background layer in Lightroom. So then you can edit in Photoshop. And then you can duplicate the layer over here. It's very misaligned. So make sure you align it. There you go, it's aligned. So you can just like put that and make that your background layer if you wanted. And everything else will end up being just used for the car. That's one way to do it. Usually it doesn't work this way because your background is going to be a lot more dynamic. Have much more dynamic range. I should explain that better. But it also doesn't really match any of these exposures. The car is either too bright or too dark. Too dark, obviously. That one works okay. It might be because the white balance is off between the background and the foreground. But anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate all of these layers and throw them all in the background. And I will make my decision the old-fashioned way. Again, you really have to pay attention and make sure, and I've been seeing it a lot more recently, even with people in Kansas City, the car photographers here in Kansas City, even from one of the most respected photographers I follow on Instagram. I won't say who he was, but he posted 488 photos, Ferrari 488 photos, and I know he was going for some like style that was new to him, maybe. But the car was literally like this. And I'll use the darkest background I have, which is this one. The car was probably this much exposure wise different from the background. And you do not want that. Just realize that my mask is wrong. This is the wrong way to do it. You should always use a path, but I don't feel like fixing my path. Come back and fix it later more accurately if I end up using this image completely. Okay. Anyways, what I was saying was he used a very dark background exposure and a very bright car exposure, and it did not look realistic whatsoever. Maybe he wasn't going for that. Maybe he was going for the faux look. It's fine. It didn't look good in my opinion. He tried something, it failed. I don't know. People really like the image anyways, but photographers, especially when you're really good, you get a cult following, you're going to get likes on Instagram. Doesn't mean it's necessarily that good of an image. But then again, I've seen Mercedes does it really, they do it a lot. There's a few other car brands. They share photos or CGI from people who are not very talented. Doesn't matter. They share them on Instagram or social medias. They're going to get likes, whatever. That's what they're going for. And it works for them. But, and then you see a bunch of comments from photographers and artists and stuff like pointing out all the serious flaws in CGI, stuff like that. That's kind of elitist, but it is what it is. So what I will probably do here is, I'm going to I will make this one a lighten layer. And I will mask out. The top here. So you can see the definition it brings in the grass, some of the wood pile. I'm bringing back too much. Behind the car. What I can do here real quick. This does not have to be perfect here by any means. So I do not know. I forgot to. Yes, that's the one. Anyways, you can customize how much you want to keep, how much you don't want. So let's try 50%, still too much for me. So there's a little definition in the highlights now on the shipping container, but not much. I just didn't want it to bring in too much to distract from the car. All right. Think darker, Tim. I want the composure to be darker than I would usually do. I might use the brighter exposure. It's tough. Tough to decide. So I know that this black part here is too bright. So you don't want that to be blown out. You want to keep details of the car that get blown out. I might use the tail lights from this exposure. Mask everything. Oops. I usually try and only do the glass parts. You're basically just painting with the individual exposures. You probably got that by now, but you're using the parts that you want to highlight and accentuate the parts you want to be highlighted and accentuated. And what works and what doesn't work, at least for your style, kind of just learn over time. I like the top of my windows to be brighter than the bottom part of my windows. But you can't make it just super obvious. It's all about being subtle. I'm gonna basically dodge and burn with this, I think. I don't know if it'll work. I just wanted to try a few new things with this shoot. One thing I noticed though is that the back of the car is not bright enough for my liking. I might just brush in this whole part. One thing I noticed, I was looking through Instagram for some inspiration the other day. Just wanted to see what people were doing editing wise, and what big names were doing trend wise, and what I think people are doing now. And this isn't new per se, it's just something I started to notice recently. And I've done this in the past, but it's never really looked that great. Maybe because I don't do it often. I don't try it often. Basically what they're doing is they're pin tooling cleaner horizon photos like this where you don't have a lot of stuff jutting in and out and you can clearly see where the horizon is in the reflection. It looks to me like they're using the pen tool semi-roughly, going through, outlining that. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be close enough that when you select this with a 1/2 pixel radius, it should look natural. I have no idea if this is gonna work. I might just straight up throw this away. This part. So based on the body lines of the car, you can see that it starts picking up the sky again. The sky's highlights down here. I'm actually gonna stop here at this body line. Call it whatever the heck you want. Okay, that obviously looks absolutely awful, and that's not what I was going to do. It just piqued my interest. But they're selecting the inverse of that, and they are making what's close. This is hard to explain because it's not something I've really done extensively in the past. But they're making this part, the part closest, brighter, and then they kind of gradient away from it to being darker. So the closer the line you are to the line that shows where the horizon is, where the dark part of the shadow or the reflection is, it will be brighter. So I could do that by saying, okay, so I want to select the inverse of my selection, which it is, and I will create a curves adjustment. See if I can do this, I don't know. And I will brighten it. Let's make it obvious. And then I actually don't want this. I want to make it completely black. And then I will make that selection again, select the inverse of it. And I will brush in this part. Now, this is probably not the technique they're using because I don't love it. Maybe it's too accentuated. I don't know. Does it make it look sharper? Does it help? I think it looks kind of tacky, probably because I'm overdoing it. It's all about being subtle. Maybe I can see how that helps a little. Define that horizon line there. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Ooh, that's the first time I'm asking you to write a YouTube comment. So if you made it this far and you're paying attention, tell me if you think this works in the comments below. And then while you're at it, like and subscribe. Isn't that what else? The other stuff that YouTubers ask you to do? So if I make this more feathered, so like 5, does that help at all? I don't think it does. Okay, well, we probably did all that for nothing. But we had a try. Okay. So if you'll notice here, the shadows are really taking away all the detail. So I'm gonna add a light. Make this a lighten layer. Kind of reduce opacity quite a bit. And I will brush in just a little bit. I want some of the detail. You should probably make a path here for this, but I just don't want these body lines of this rear valance lost. I might use the taillights in this. I think I said that earlier. So these are not stock tails. Most people like the black taillights. Actually, I think they're stock. They're just not what came on the car. Most people like the black taillights, but he wanted the red ones. So that's what he got. I'm going to take out this middle part. It's way too hard. It's subtle, but brings back the detail in it. All right, so let's see. I'm going to take out some of the, again, I'm basically using these exposures to light, or not light paint, but dodge and burn manually. Oh, yes, it is a very sexy car. It is a Cayman with GT3 parts. So like this is obviously not a Cayman lid. It's got the 3.8 symbol on it, which is not a Cayman thing. And then this black, what the heck's it called? It protects the fender, so it's kind of like a fender liner, but it's not called a fender liner. Anyways, that's from a 911 GT3 992.2, something like that. Yeah, kinda. But it looks a lot better. So if we look up a Cayman, is this a 992? I don't know my Porsches perfectly. I think this is just a Cayman S. So you can see that if it was a regular... Oh, nice. What were they in Indy for? Track day? But anyways, you can see that the lid is like more of a whale tail, whatever, I can't remember the technical term they use. Less of a wing. Go for it. I gotta permit you. Hold on just a second. There you go. Anyways, I love this car though. He paid 60 something for it, and I think it looks just as good as, you know, a $100,000 car. Sounds really good too. Not gonna get a super fast car, but I am going to accentuate this a little bit more. Let me know when you're about to post that link, because if you post a link, it might time you out. If it's not within 60 seconds of me permitting that link. No worries. That thing is sweet. I love cup cars. You know, I had a friend shooting an 8-hour race in India, I think. Was this a NASA event? Or is this something else? No, it wasn't a NASA event. Yeah, that's great. What lens are you using? Like a 400mm or something? Oh, GTWC. Okay. I've actually shot CrowdStrike car photos before at a track day in Texas. At Circuit of the Americas. CrowdStrike has a few AMG cars that were there testing for an event they had at the same track later that year. 500, okay. Looks really good. I love all the detail you can get. What camera was it with? Because you missed photos, like, or you missed focus, or some other reason? I should probably add the chat to the recording. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense. I love that when you can pick up the heat coming off cars. Ah, it's such a sexy car. Porsche Cup cars are so attractive. It's insane. I just love Porsches. So I'm just bringing definition here in the front. Oops. Let's see. Do you mainly just shoot track stuff, or do you shoot stills too? Like, not stills, like regular shoots like this, where you're alone with the car, one-on-one. Feature photos, I guess you could say. At one point, a few years ago, I really wanted to drop everything and just become a full-time track photographer for a team or something like that. But I think I learned pretty quickly that it's very, very, very hard to be good enough to break into that market quickly. And B, especially with, I can't speak for many other organizations, but gear, yes, lenses. I won't use specific names, but there are 2 race track day organizations that come to the Kansas City area regularly that put on HPT events, high performance driving events. They have their own photographers or photography companies that they are buddy with that give them a cut of what they make that weekend. So they're very biased towards those photographers, even though their end product is very, very poor. So basically you have favoritism towards photographers that are very poor at their job. And that is very frustrating for me when I can show up with gear that costs 1/10 of what they're using, with no track access, and I can produce images that are 10 times better than what these folks are producing. And that is not me bragging, that is just me explaining how poor these organizations' photographers are. I will whisper you right now. You might know both. A friend of mine who's very, very good actually started shooting for an organization. And honestly, I think he is much too good to be shooting for them for the price they are paying him. But that's not my decision to make. Obviously, that's up to him, what he values his time at. I'm gonna path this, make a path here. Do that at a 2 pixel radius. I don't want it perfect. So do you shoot for an organization, or do you just shoot for a specific track? There's a guy, an acquaintance I know. He lived in Kansas City for a while, but he's from Wisconsin. And after college, he moved back home and he started doing, track or racing, wheel-to-wheel racing motorcycles. And I really want one day to go up and shoot one of his races, because I feel like motorcycle racing would be a lot of fun to shoot. Motorcycles are very, very attractive. He does all over the place, actually. I honestly don't know all the tracks he does. But I'm sure it's Road America, but I've seen photos of him at much smaller racetracks as well. Well, I can't say for sure he's on Road America. I would just assume. Let's see what this looks like. It probably won't look good, but yeah, sometimes I forget that some tracks don't allow motorcycles. And I wonder how much of that is to do with the fact that there are just less motorcycle racing organizations. So if they put the time and money into investing in the safety requirements needed to accommodate those organizations, it's probably just the trade-off's not worth it. I would assume that's the reason. Now, is that some kind of regulation, or is that more a preference on the drivers themselves? Or is there an actual organizational requirement to having some, I don't know, speed runoff limit requirement? I have no idea how to explain that. Yeah, makes sense. Need to watch that. Yeah. Not much surviving that. Well, it's not instant death, but you might not like how you live afterwards. Alright. Let's color grade. How do you like the R6 though? I almost ordered one instead of getting a 5D Mark IV. I just bought a new, or well, used camera, a 5D Mark IV last month. Used it twice now and I really like it compared to my 6D. But I used a friend's Nikon mirrorless and I really liked mirrorless format. And so I almost bought an R6. I had a friend who's a professional, does it full-time, photographer, mostly commercial work. And he really likes the R5 and he hates the R6. And so I didn't want to spend the money on an R5. I take his word pretty seriously, so I didn't go ahead and order one. But you doing the kind of work that I do, how do you like the R6? So he loves the R5, hates the R6. And I very briefly talked to him about it. It's possible the megapixels had something to do with it, which is one of the reasons I didn't go for it as well. I went from a 6D to a 5D Mark IV, so I didn't want to get a new camera that didn't also upgrade megapixels, at least some. And I know megapixels don't matter that much anymore, but in motorsports I feel like it would, because you're going to be cropping quite a bit depending on the scenario and the lens you're using. Yeah, mirrorless autofocus is unmatched. At least that was my experience with the Nikon. I think I was using a Z6. That's right, I'm not a Nikon guy. I could be wrong, but I think it was a Z6. The other nutty thing was being in low light. I was helping him shoot his own wedding. It was an Indian wedding, so there were ceremonies and stuff, and he didn't have a photographer for one of his ceremonies. So he asked me to use his camera to take some photos of this specific ceremony, and very poor lighting in a hotel. And I was shooting at 2500 ISO like it was absolutely nothing. It's crazy. The autofocus, low light, high ISO combination was not something I was used to. Yeah, good luck. I would assume with the supply chain issues, those are going to be few and far between availability wise. No, go for it. With the R6? It's pretty crazy at 10,000. I mean, you can tell it's noisy, but it's nothing compared to a DSLR at 10,000. Yeah, probably. And if it doesn't, you could add some noise reduction and it would still be fine. Noise reduction, pretty much everything, but barely. I noise reduce as much as a JPEG conversion in camera probably would. Really any green. What did I do here? So you shoot dog competitions as well? My mom, when I was growing up, probably 13, 14 years old, my mom was always, ever since I was like 4 years old, she was big into purebred golden retrievers. So our family dogs growing up from the time I was 4-ish till the time I moved out, and even right now they have the dog that we got, the golden that we got when I was, I guess I was probably 16 at the time when they finally got him. But anyways, there's always been goldens in my family since I was 4, and when I was around 12, 13 years old, before my littlest brother was born, youngest brother, she would go to AKC meets, and those competitions were pretty crazy. It was all about show, though. It wasn't about, agility. Now, I did go to a few agility competitions, and those were very cool, but she was mainly about the show dogs. That makes sense. And I think that's kind of the way it should be. I think everybody should be allowed that opportunity. It makes me upset when I have to deal with organizations who don't want me coming along with a group of cars or a car and shooting photos for them. I also think there's probably more money to be made with privately shooting like that. Maybe not, though. I do not do this as a full-time job, though, so money chasing is not important to me at all. But if you're the main photographer, I would assume that it's harder to be that organization's main photographer than it is to find individuals who are willing to pay you to shoot for them exclusively. But I don't know that industry whatsoever, so I can't say that for sure. Might have overdone that a little bit. off.
Hey man, what you say? I can hear you thinking,
Decent. I'm happy with it. I need to clean my monitor. Let's see, I'll edit this one next. Well, that opens, I'll be right back. So Sam, I don't know if you're still in the, or I guess I should call you Adam. Have you ever shot at Circuit of the Americas in Austin? Okay, I don't know if he'd bring anything to the stream, you know? Plus anything that's typed is going in a YouTube recording, so. Doesn't matter. If it mattered, I wouldn't put chat box in the recording. Just turn it off. Seeing the windows because I want to completely control the reflections differently than the car, the rest of the body of the car. I'll explain that here in a second when I'm done with it. So yes, to an extent. So if you look on this layer right here, I want the top part of this reflection, but not the bottom part. I want to give the window definition, but still keep the semi-realistic reflection on the top. On the front window, the windshield, I want some of this reflection, but none of this reflection. And it's not easy to do that unless you mask. So what I will do is I will add a mask to this. Then I will select the path. And I should have masked these differently. I'm an idiot. I will brush in some over here. I will brush in some over here. And I will get rid of the rest. You have to be careful to not make the windows brighter than the sky is. I think that's a little too much. Darn it. Oops. I did that the wrong way. I did this wrong. I should have added the mask, but made it black. Now I will mask in. What's up, Grey Wolf? Thanks for following. Are you a car guy? Are you a photographer? What do you photograph? Nothing as cool as cars, I bet. I don't know what. Oh, nice. If you type that anywhere else, you might get in trouble, but... Power to you. I shot a few weddings, shot some portraits, shot some engagement sessions. I respect those who can do that for a living regularly. One of my best friends shoots weddings. More power to him. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I did take really, really good engagement photos of my best friend, my other best friend, and his fiance while we were in Colorado early last month. That's why I chose light. I always like to see what the people who come into the stream, if you are comfortable posting like your Instagram or something. There was a guy earlier, I think he's still in the chat, but I don't know if he's paying attention. He's an automotive sports photographer. And it was fun to see some of his photos. This needs to be cleaned up. Should have wiped the car down better. This song is awful. No, I want to include that. Oh no. This. Blue's throwing it off. All right, so I think I'll just do this 2 images. So here's what we've got. Our before base background image, if I remember right. Here's our after. It's decent, a little busy for me. Colors are good. Framing's okay. Wheels look really good. Maybe a little overexposed. I might fix that. I have a tendency to overexpose the wheels. Good reflections. And then here we had our base background, if I remember right as well. Colors are a little weird. I might try and fix the blue on the car. It's a little too blue for me comparative to the sky. Overall, it's decent. Owner will be happy, I believe. So if you made it this far in the video or the stream, appreciate you tuning in. You can follow my Twitch. I'll edit more of these on stream. I'll edit most shoots going forward that aren't private. So yeah, follow me on Twitch and YouTube if you like this kind of content. Appreciate you tuning in.